Hello everyone. Hope we're doing well. Got another Dawn of War 2 cast for you guys today. Now it's going to be that Space Marine versus Chaos matchup that we're all very familiar with at this point, and I must admit I wish I could find some matches that weren't that, but it's Apo versus Chaos Sorcerer. So I feel like that adds something. I believe this game was from... yeah, there's L's, so it is from Elite League Season 4. Bit of a while ago now. This was the one that Toilailee was harassing me to cast. But given that he was really wanting to hear about mistakes he made, or at least me grilling him, who knows, maybe he won, maybe he didn't. I actually can't remember. Elite League 4 at this point was so long ago. There's a lot of debate about this matchup. Traditionally, it was held that the Chaos Sorcerer generally struggles against the Apo, because if the Apo gets Sanguine, he becomes very tanky. And tanky melee heroes are a real problem for the Sorcerer, because look at his army. He's only got CSM to actually shoot them down. And obviously you don't want to fight a tanky melee hero in melee. So that was a bit of a problem. And then obviously the Apo can get the ASM as well. The Apo also, as we just seen, counters your Doom Bolts pretty well. If that was an FC or a Tech Marine, these tacticals at this point, well, right now they'd be losing models, they need to retreat for sure. But obviously the heal completely mitigates the Doom Bolts, and you've got the additional regen that just kicks in passively from the Apo as well. So pretty influential. Heretics are going to have to be really careful here. I think they'll just about get out. Yeah, pretty close though. With the Bolt of Fire as well. Pretty close. Apo heal's doing a really good job to keep the attacks on the field and not having to retreat. And the Apo getting a really nice special against the CSM as well. These CSM actually need to get out. With the tax as well, they're going to lose a model. Ooh, the Doombots might swing it actually. Nope. Really good specials from the Apo, turning that fight. He is unfortunately quite far off of another heal, so these attacks probably do at this point want to retreat. But yeah, back to the matchup in particular. So the Apo himself as a hero is quite good against the Chaos Sorcerer, because he also gets ASM, and all these tanky melee squads are things that the Sorcerer struggles with. He's quite good against ranged blobs, because he can just bunker down, he can go and use his Doom Bolts from long range, combine it with a Havoc so you can't dodge them, because that's what you want to do with Doom Bolts. You don't just want to throw them off blindly, you want to suppress the enemy first, or knock them back, and then you're going to be able to hit the Doom Bolts perfectly without them dodging you. But ASM, they're just going to jump on top of your Sorcerer, so good luck doing that. But then it could be said that Chaos beats Space Marines, because as soon as you hit Tier 2, the combination of the Blood Crusher and the Blood Letters is very difficult for the Space Marines to handle. Because if you want to fight... the Space Marines in Tier 2 hit a bit of a dichotomy. They can choose to either invest heavily in anti-infantry or heavily in anti-vehicle, and they have to pay quite a lot of power for either option. And the reason why they pay so much power for what is, for that cost, relatively ineffective at the roll is meant to balance it out, because if you want to as Space Marine, you can then choose to swap to the other role. So your Tactical Marines can swap from the missile launcher to the plasma gun, and the melter bomb upgrade, which is AV on your ASM, doesn't make them weaker against infantry, but it can make it actually quite difficult to fight a mixed composition, because generally you have to spend twice as much and it's just not very effective. But we'll see how that plays out into the rest of the game. We do see the Sanguine Chainsword, which I think is, as I've said already, is a really good pick in this matchup. Anything to make your hero in any way a tanky melee hero is going to be really good against the Sorcerer, because whilst he's in melee, look at him. Okay, he got knocked over, so it made him stop attacking. In fact, he might go down here. The damage over the time from the Sorcerer could be pretty brutal. Raptors jumped the complete wrong direction here. Oh, that should have been a dead Sorcerer. Oh, come on, Sorcerer, what the hell are you doing? That should have been a dead Apothecary, but that was... I don't know. I think he kind of derped with the terrain, and obviously sending the Raptors the wrong way as well. Not ideal. Heretics beating the Scouts on this side is a bit of a miss micro on Toilailee's behalf. Obviously, if you just A-move both the squads together, the Heretics will win, because they'll just enter melee, and then the Scouts can't run away because of Doom Blast. don't know why they're getting so close. Oh, to repair the generators. Okay, fair enough. Yeah, okay. Now, the problem that Toilailee has, he seems to be quite far behind in terms of power. Raptors, of course, only cost 40 power, whereas ASM costs 50. As well as costing more requisition as well for those ASMs, so you do generally end up putting your gens down a little bit later if you're playing as the Space Marines, and that can keep you behind in the tech race. And then you get to tier 2 and they get a Blood Crusher, which, you know, is a relatively cheap vehicle, and then you have to dump all of your power into killing the Blood Crusher, and then by the time you kill it, which itself is pretty damn hard, they end up getting Bloodletters, and you're like, oh shit, I can't afford a vehicle because I've spent all my power in AV, and now you're using this infantry squad, which I can't counter because I got AV. So that's generally the problem that the Space Marines have, but sometimes they can do really well in tier 1, because heretics are just, they're okay, but they bleed a lot, and they can feed the enemy a lot of XP. And the attacks in the ASM are so strong, especially when they're supported by heroes like the APO. I'd like to see the purification rites used to wipe some heretics at some point. That could be quite powerful. In fact, we might see it here if he really commits to a fight. Yeah, probably not a good idea anyway. CSM obviously will counter scouts very easily. No matter how well you can micro scouts, you will not be able to counter CSM with them. Sanguine putting in so much work here, just allows the Chaos Sorcerer to get 1v1'd by the APO, whereas normally, of course, if he had his default Chainsword, this Flamesword would thrash him. Look at the Flamesword, it does 44 DPS, but also does 5 piercing damage every second for 5 seconds. It doesn't stack perfectly, I can't remember what the maximum stack for it is, I think it is about 5, but you could be looking at an effective DPS of about 55 or 60, right? And the default Chainsword on the APO, it's only about 27 or so DPS, so yeah, he would get thrashed. But Sanguine, constantly healing the APO, makes him a pain to deal with. And of course you don't want to go for Havocs to try and shut him down and stop him getting into melee, because if you go for Havocs, well, you know he's already going to get the ASM, so you're kind of just playing into his game then, because you're going to have to rely on Heretics to beat the ASM in melee, and you don't want to do that because of Purification Rites, which are just instantly going to do 25 damage to every single Heretic. Well, they only have 75 HP anyway, so that's just a third of their health nuked. Plus they get knocked back, so then they're vulnerable to getting killed in retreat. Really nice Purification Rites there on those Raptors. They should lose a model. Doombots actually takes out a Tactical Marine, that's pretty awesome. In fact, well, they might go down here. Ooh, they needed one more swing on that model. They do have another jump actually, they could jump into base potentially. Be a bit risky, but they probably could have got it. Obviously the turrets aren't going to suppress you instantly, and even if they do, suppression doesn't stop you from hitting your enemy in melee. Okay. So Toil has stabilized his power position, but as expected, we see the fast Blood Crusher coming out. So how well he can handle this is going to really determine how the rest of the game goes. It is generally very difficult. You cannot really expect to kill the Blood Crusher in an evenly balanced game if you only go for one source of AV. Even something like a Melter Bomb plus Missile Launcher will generally be insufficient, because the DPS on the Missile Launcher alone, it's just not very high. I think it's something like 13, 14 DPS. And you've got to remember, when that Blood Crusher is under worship, because it's a demon, it's healing 10 HP per second. So you do the maths. You're only getting a net, like, DPS amount of damage to the Blood Crusher of about 4 per second. It's got 600 HP. Do you really think your missile attacks are just going to be able to stand there chilling, shooting for free? Well, the Chaos is not going to let you do that. The Blood Crusher, as you see right now, is just going to charge straight for the tacticals anyway. So generally you need to end up getting 2 sort of forms of AV out. You can try and like snipe it with like grenades on your scouts or something like that, but it's pretty hard. The other option you can do is you can get stimulants on the Apothecary. Have we got any other? No, we don't get any other war gear yet, but he can get stimulants here, and that will buff up the damage of the missiles, so it'll do 25% extra damage. Now they do 130 by default, so what's that? You're looking at 390, looking at 5 or so shots, but with the stimulants it should only be 4 shots, so that can be something. Then you've got the melter bomb as well to factor in. I think that's about 150. Look, it's not easy. It's not easy to take it down. Right now the Blood Crusher is being misplayed. It should be tying up the Tactical Marines, not fighting the ASM. The ASM cannot kill the Blood Crusher, but the Tacs can. Nice usage of this piece of terrain here though to block the Tactical Marines from firing. As you can see, Toilailee is right-clicking the Blood Crusher to make the Tacs shoot them, but they can't see it, so they're just running down instead to try and get around. Of course, that doesn't really help them. So they're promptly tied up by the Heretics and forced off. Now, we probably want to see the Mark of Tzeentch on the CSM, actually, at this point. That would be quite helpful, because even against Scouts, the Mark of Tzeentch upgrade is good, because unlike Plasma, Inferno damage, which is the damage type they get from the Mark of Tzeentch, it doesn't do any less damage to light infantry. Plasma does. So Plasma is a little bit more niche, because it gives you a 50% bonus against heavy infantry, whereas Inferno, I believe, gives 25%. But Plasma makes you do less to light infantry, whereas Inferno doesn't. So what I'm trying to say is, we do see the Mark of Tzeentch. This Mark of Tzeentch is going to be amazing versus everything that Toilailee's got. It's going to melt the ASM, it's going to melt the Tactical Marines, and you know what? It's going to do just fine against the Scouts. Now, Toilailee's done a good job here, because typically when the Blood Crusher comes out, because it's so difficult to defend off, what you'll see happen is the Blood Crusher will push up against the power farm of the Space Marine, and the Space Marine will end up losing all of his power, which he has then invested into getting anti-vehicle to kill the Blood Crusher, so then when Blood Leaders come out, which need anti-infantry investments, you cannot do very much, and you've lost your power, so you can't field a vehicle yourself. But Toilailee actually stalled out quite well, and I like his decision here. If you notice, he built 1 gen on this farm, and he built 2 over here. So even if the Blood Crusher push was very effective, and pushed him back really well, allowing Shroom to get the power bash, he wouldn't have lost all of his generators, and because of this, he's been able to field a Dreadnought. The Dreadnought is going to counter the Raptors amazingly. It's going to deter the Chaos Sorcerer from moving in. The Heretics certainly will not want to go anywhere near the Dreadnought, because not only will it kill them very quickly, you've got to remember the Dreadnought causes massive amounts of damage buffs via its inspiration every single time it kills a model. Look how many models Heretics have got. This thing does splash damage. If you fight an army versus army engagement and you let the Dreadnought hit your Heretics, you're going to lose, because you're just going to give massive damage buffs to the rest of your army. Decent macro here. Sending out the scouts with their low models to try and capture these points to the side, but of course they meet some heretics, but they get out of there in time. Have we got any elite training yet? Doesn't look like it. That seems to be too slow HP regen. Might see a nice... Oh, wow. Wow. I was going to say we might see a nice grenade in retreat, but totally unnecessary. Dreadnought using its Emperor's Fist ability. Look at the poor bastards. They're still stunned even though they're dead. They didn't know what hit them. Absolutely massacred. And that also gives them the inspiration buff, as you can see. Really would like to see stimulants, to be honest. That'd be nice. So Shroom... Oh my god, I didn't even realise he's got a Chaos Dreadnought out. Didn't even notice that. And he's getting a Havoc. Presumably that's going to have a last cannon, so that's going to help him take out this Dreadnought. Presumably this is going to have a... Yeah. This is the mirror, guys. The Chaos Space Marines versus normal Space Marines. Coruscating Flames trying to buff up the Heretics to help them out, but Merciless Strike instantly knocking off 50% of that Heretic squad HP, and then the remainder of it getting sent away because of the heal with the Purification Rites. Now the Dreadnought's in a bit of a precarious position. Do we have Teleport on the Sorcerer? We don't have it yet, but the Raptors have sufficient energy to jump onto the last cannon. This is a bit risky. That autocannon probably... This looks like it's probably going to be enough. No, the Dreadnought needs to keep chasing down the other Dreadnought so it can shoot its autocannon. Oh, this is a really big misplay from Shroom. ASM valiantly sacrificing their life there to tie up the Chaos Dreadnought so that it can't use its autocannon to shoot at the Dreadnought and kill it. It should have been a dead Dreadnought. At this point, I actually think that the Blood Crusher is probably going to go down. Oh, I think it's only going to be 2 more hits to kill the Dreadnought. But the snare has kicked in. That looks like it's going to be a dead Blood Crusher. Yeah, the all-in play here from Shroom to try and kill the Dreadnought is really not paying off. This is backfiring quite massively, even spending a good 200 red to put down the demonic summoning. Okay, well that puts Toilailee in an absolutely fantastic position, because now he's really stabilized, and all these core infantry units, they're starting to get some levels. Let's see how it's looking from the Chaos side. Yep. As suspected, the Raptors do not have as many levels. Now, the Raptors come out a lot earlier, but the thing is, all the Chaos units have less HP. They have more damage, but they have less HP. So if you can retreat at the correct time with your Space Marine units, you'll generally find that you lose fewer models than the Chaos will. What that means is, as the game progresses, you're going to get more levels than them. Purification rites, oh, that's so beautiful. Just knocking them over, letting you get more hits in. Didn't get any models on this opportunity, unfortunately, but they're so low. The next time they get jumped by the ASM, they are going to lose models for sure. Not winning the engagement though, so the map control is still a bit of a problem. VPs are relatively even. Toilailee, I was going to say you could really do with replacing his final generator, but to be honest at this point I think really it's not really a problem, is it? Look at his eco. He's got a when you have more power in tier 2 than you have requisition, you know you're in a pretty tight spot. The only exception to that, of course, would be if you had just purchased a new unit, which costed you your requisition. But he hasn't. Devastators get very close to going down there. Probably only one or more 2 swings from the chainsaws of those Raptors would have killed them. Bit of a dodgy position here to be going into. Really could, I was going to say, could have done with an Angels of Death at a bit of an earlier point. But it looks like the ASM are going to actually win this fight against the Aspiring Champion Heretics. They need to get out of there pretty quickly. What's this? This is a multi-melter. Okay. It's going to do good damage. And of course the Dreadnought can't fire anymore because of the ASM tying it up. That probably is in range to kill it. Yeah, this should be a dead Chaos Dreadnought. The Raptors have tied up the Tactical Marines, but they're activating and they shall know no fear. Okay, so the Dreadnought falls. Ooh, probably going to kill the Aspiring Champion as well. Staggered jump. Oh, that's so unlucky. Staggered jump means the fucking stupid Aspiring Champion just stands there taking Power Fists? Do Dreadnoughts have Power Fists? I assume it's a Power Fist. Taking Power Claws or whatever the hell the Dreadnought uses as a melee weapon. Taking them to the face. Not something you want no matter how tough of a Chaos Space Marine you are. Yeah, pretty frustrating situation really for Shroom to be in. This Dreadnought was at a sliver of HP and it just managed to get out of there when he did that big push into the base. Really, that was the big mistake that Shroom made here. Going in a little bit too far for the Dreadnought. And you know, he had the advantage. I don't feel like he needed to make that all-in play. It's not like he was on the back foot. Sometimes you just got to be patient. But there's a lot to be said about how frustrating it is fighting against the Space Marines, because it's just so difficult to bleed their models. So you just, even if you're winning on the VPs, even if you're winning on the map control, it just feels really annoying, because you see yourself losing all your Heretics, you lose a Raptor model, you lose a Chaos Space Marine, and you can't kill any of their models. You just get pissed off with it. So the map control at this point is absolutely dominated by Toilailee, completely blue. Even getting the counter bash, which is really quite huge. I mean, Shroom does have a lot of power at this point, but you know, as soon as he spends that power on one tier 3 unit, he's not going to be able to get another one out of that. So that means he's pretty much locked into the next pick that he chooses. And I don't think a Predator's going to do that amazing. There's already Las Cannon Devastators. There's in fact a Heavy Bolter Devastator as well, Melter Bombs, Missile Launchers, and the Melter Gun. And we see Armor of Purity. Okay, fair enough. Makes the Apo a bit tankier, makes him more effective at his basic job of just throwing out heals. You know, there's never really a bad time to get the Armor of Purity. I do like the Stimulants. I think the Stimulants would be better in this matchup. Stimulants, of course, they grant 25% damage boost, as well as 25% damage resistance to the squad that is affected by them, as well as suppression immunity. Suppression immunity wouldn't be very impactful in this matchup, but extra damage and extra damage resistance on a squad like the ASM could be great. One thing to note, flat damage buffs do buff abilities generally. So you use your stimulants on your ASM, and that Merciless Strike is going to do an extra 25% damage. So we already seen earlier, lower than level 3 ASM, I didn't notice whether they were level 1 or level 2, but their Merciless Strike did 50% of the HP of an Aspiring Champion Heretic squad. Just think about them gaining levels, them being under inspiration buffs, and them having the stimulant boost. They'd be very close to insta-gibbing the entire squad. Okay, so we see that the Predator is the play that Shroom has gone for. But I mean, as I mentioned before, there's so much AV on the field, I'm not really sure how this is going to do. It's always good to have a Predator. They're really fast, so it's possible to outmaneuver the enemy AV. If he catches the Dreadnought in an isolated position, he'll be able to hunt it down. The Dreadnought can't escape from an engagement against the Predator due to its inferior speed. Now, Toilailee is very privy to that, so you see in the top left corner the Dreadnought is just escaping. It doesn't want any part of this fight, and the APO and the ASM are really just stalling so that the Dreadnought can get out into a decent position. At this point, he's actually forgotten about it, which is not ideal. Needs to move around to the centre into a position where it's covered by the las cannon. Once the las cannon is able to get a nice hit off on the Predator and snaring it, then the Dreadnought can close in to use melee combat because it has that melter gun, and it can actually solo the Predator then, but you need to get the snare off. But with all the snares that Toilailee has access to at this point, which is the melter bomb as well as the las cannon, it's going to be quite difficult to keep this Predator alive. It's going to be a true testament to the micro of Shroom, I think. Now, the advantage that the Predator does give you is complete range superiority. It forces Toilailee to come towards you. Oh, wow. We actually see double las cannons. Really nice play, though. He's gone for Sigil of the Rift in order to counter that las dev, which actually is bugged out, which is a bit of a shame. I imagine Shroom didn't intentionally do that. These scouts, a little bit overextending. It seems the Sorcerer can't actually melee them either. That's weird. But yeah, they're stuck. They can't move out of this position. Oh, can they? It looks like they're not bugged. That's very strange. Either way, I like the idea. So he went for the Sigil because he knew the las cannon was going to be the main thing that really puts the Predator in a compromised position. Because it gets snared by the las cannon and then the Dreadnought can move in and use that multi-melter. So he got Sigil of the Rift to counter the Devastators, but Toil got 2 las cannons, so it wasn't really sufficient. And now we see that Shroom is going for Bloodletters in tier 3. Not really an ideal thing that you want to do, but he doesn't really have the power for anything else. Nor the red, he doesn't have the red for Terminators. I guess that's why he felt he needed to get the Predator after making that relatively risky choice to go tier 3. At this point, I think really he's just going to lose out on the VP game. He's only got 68 VPs left, and they're ticking down pretty quick. He's not really going to have much time to get any more tier 3 units out onto the field. I do think tier 3 in this case was a bit of a mistake. I think you needed the Bloodletters out earlier. Bloodletters and Blood Crusher, it's the classic combination in a lot of matchups, really. It's so powerful because you force the enemy to get a V with the Blood Crusher. You generally get the Blood Crusher first because you rely on them having less upgrade, less vehicles of their own to deal with it. And then the Bloodletters help you by countering the AV since they can teleport on top of things like the las cannon. And of course, they're just really strong infantry units. So they are stuck there, they couldn't retreat out, they weren't doing anything. It's a bit unfortunate. We'll give Shroom the benefit of the doubt that he didn't do that on purpose. It doesn't look like that's going to matter though. Was that double melter bombs? No, it's only one ASM. What am I talking about? I mean, we might as well slow down things here. So the Chaos Sorcerer is going for the decap there, so it's going to keep Shroom in the game, and Toilailee needs to be aware of this. We actually see the Melter Raptors. I really like Melter Raptors. They're something I've been playing around with a lot more recently. I find that Raptors, whilst they're amazing in Tier 1, and even Tier 2 thanks to the Aspiring Champion, they don't scale that great into Tier 3. Generally, the melee squads are just too strong then. Might actually die to the multi-melter. I don't know how much damage that's going to do on retreat. But yeah, that seems to be pretty much a hard route. Toilailee's probably going to drop down Terminators any second now. Mark of Zinch upgrade coming in for the tank, but too little too late really, not enough support for it. Could have done with perhaps some more Havocs, or like I say, just get the Bloodletters out earlier so you could have countered the ASM a bit better. Plague Marines, of course, would be great against the Dreadnought, but they're just so much requisition. If you can't get both the Bloodletters and the Plague Marines in tier 2 generally. So I would recommend the Bloodletters, forget the Plague Marines, rely on your own Dreadnought, Blood Crusher, and the Las Havocs to kill the enemy Dreadnought. Two big mistakes here for Shroom in this game, I would say. The all-in push onto the base obviously didn't play off. That was a high-risk, high-reward kind of thing. If he killed the Dreadnought, he would have been in an absolutely fantastic position, regardless of whether or not he lost the Blood Crusher. I mean, look at all the work that the Dreadnought put in this game. Unfortunately, on this occasion, it didn't pay off. I think the Dreadnought came down to like 14 HP or something. It would have been 1 or 2 more hits from the Blood Crusher to kill it. Really unfortunate. But then other than that, going to tier 3 when he had practically nothing, probably not the best idea. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Nice showcase from Toilailee really on how to play the matchup. I think he did pretty much everything in accordance with the meta as we have it now. Sanguine Chainsword really good. The only thing I'd say personally, I think Stimulants are a little bit better than Purity. Would have liked to have seen some of them being used. Could have helped get some wipes on the Havocs. Stimmed ASM are just so powerful. So powerful. Nice to see the Multi-Melter Dreadnought, which incidentally is getting a small buff in the next patch. Nothing major, it's just going down from 30 power to 25. But it's appreciated because we don't see this thing too often. Obviously short range on a Walker, not ideal because Walkers are so slow, they're already quite vulnerable to AV. You don't really want to be getting a weapon that's short range on them, but it's awesome. It can just pop models from pretty much any army that you're fighting. Great to see it against Tyranids. Really hurts Carnifex, really hurts Tyrant Guards, and then you just pop them Synax Creatures and laugh as the Tyranids fall to pieces. So yeah, hopefully we'll see a few more of those multi-melters. That's everything I've got to say for this cast. I will wrap it up there, so I'm not rambling on endlessly. Thank you very much for watching, guys. That will be Torpid out.